this freaking thing. I didn't change it. There we go. Anyways, what's going on, everybody? It's the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Your hosts, Derek and Chase. Appreciate you guys hopping in here. We got a bunch of news today as free agency is right around the corner, dude. Only a week away. Only a week away Monday. From free agency. Yep. And the legal tampering period starts. So less than a week away now. And a lot of things are happening. Franchise tag periods coming to an end tomorrow. And some people are getting released. Some people are getting tagged. Some people aren't getting tagged. People are discussing getting traded. There's a ton of different things to talk about. We need to talk first. We'll go ahead and talk about some of the people who did get tagged. That was Tony Pollard of the Cowboys, the running back who has been taking over the reins in Dallas. It might mean two things. One, that means either that could mean Zeke's contract could either get null and void, or it could be or Zeke could end up getting cut at some point from what I'm hearing. And of course, that means Dalton Schultz is most likely not going to get a long-term contract, which means he's probably going to test free agency. So that's going to be an issue. Josh Jacobs, statistical best running back last year, ended up getting franchise tagged as well. Daron Payne got franchise tagged. Evan Ingram got franchise tagged, which we mentioned the last episode that we did. Just seems like a ton of offensive players, especially running backs, getting franchise tagged, man.
I know it's a lot.
What's up, Trey? How you doing, dude? Think the Titans are going to blow up their roster? Dude, they already are.
They
know how many people they've already cut? They've cut like 7 people already.
Robert Woods, Bud Dupree.
And they're thinking about trading Derrick Henry, which we'll discuss in a little bit. I mean, I think, and from what I've heard, is that the Titans are going to basically unofficially tank this year so they can have a good shot at getting Caleb Williams next year. The Titans.
Oh.
Because they're rolling with Tannehill one more year, and they're just gonna run for whatever. But yeah, so those are the guys that got franchise tagged. I know you and I talked about Daniel Jones. He's meeting with him and his reps are talking with people at the Giants to discuss a deal. Do you think Daniel Jones is actually going to get a long-term deal done, or do you think they're just going to tag him?
Well, at this point in time, they're getting frustrated with the contract negotiations. They've already said that they're at this point in time they're not reaching an agreement, so they're going to franchise tag him and everything, and then try to work on getting a deal done with Barkley, because they said that with Daniel Jones's franchise tag number, it's going to be $32 million, and then if they franchise tag Barkley, it's going to be $10 million. So they would rather pay the little bit more money with Daniel Jones and getting the 32 rather than having just franchise tagging Barkley and then trying to pay out the butt for Daniel Jones. And for all we know, they might franchise tag Daniel. They might not reach an agreement. They might give him a couple weapons and then go from there and see what he can do next year with upgraded roster, upgraded weapons, and see if he's worth that $45 million that he wants. Because as of right now, Derek Carr just even signed a 5-year, $150 million deal, and he's only getting $37.5 million a year. So if Derek Carr can't even get $40 million a year, Daniel Jones is not even anywhere near worth $45 million. And Trey, to answer your question, I don't think the Bengals will go after him, even though they got a lot of money. I think that the best landing spots right now at this point in time for Derrick Henry are probably going to be either Carolina, Buffalo. They'll try to find a way to get the cap down. I also heard that the Eagles are all in on trying to trade for Derrick Henry. If they can get one of the picks back, or give one of their first rounders to the Titans for Derrick Henry, I think that they would go all in for it. And you know how Howie Roseman is with being aggressive.
He's been a lot more aggressive over the last few years.
He's not scared to give up some picks for some players. So I see his top 2 landing spots is either the Bills or the Eagles. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
And as far as Daniel Jones, I agree. I think he's going to get tagged because what was the number? Like $35 million that we heard that he potentially wanted. Listen, I'm sorry, but 22 touchdowns to 9 turnovers is not worthy of $35 million. I get like what you said, we don't know how good he is
Yeah.
because he didn't have any weapons. He
He's
didn't have
throwing
any
to
weapons.
Richie James and
Yeah.
Isaiah Hodgins. Who the heck are they?
From a efficiency standpoint, he did fantastic. But it's clear he needs more playmakers in order to actually put up bigger numbers because, I mean, 3,200 yards over the span of the year is average. It's about average. And again, 15 passing touchdowns is not even one touchdown per game. I mean, that's bad. It's really bad. I get he doesn't have any weapons, but that's still bad. And it's something where I need to see if he wants to get $35 million a year. And I think the franchise tag is what? Like
32 right now.
32 mil?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, there's no way he gets 35 because, like you said, he's never eclipsed. I mean, the most touchdowns he's had in a single season, 24. And that was his rookie year. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, but he also had OBJ his rookie year. And,
I understand.
Some of the better weapons.
I understand. I just think that obviously it's too early for Daniel Jones to be asking for that money when his numbers don't back it up. Again, you need help, and they're going to get him help, I hope. But you never know when it comes to anything. Of course, he thinks that he's worth the pack of ramen noodles. Anyway, let's go to a guy who's not going to get tagged. Orlando Brown, the left tackle of the Kansas City Chiefs, only 26 years old. One of the younger guys in the league, one of the best left tackles in the league, probably top 3 if you ask me. And they have to get him a long-term deal by the beginning of next week, or else he can start talking with other teams who might give him one. Do you think the Chiefs would be stupid to let him go?
I think they would. I think that with the way that the Chiefs GM has been drafting a lot of players recently, I think look how smart he's got. He had Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, Sky Moore in the 2nd round. They traded for Kadarius Toney. They ended up getting a lot of a handful of defensive players in the middle to late rounds, and they've all been hitting recently. And I think that if and a lot of the offensive linemen that have hit have usually gone in the 2nd, 3rd, or 5th round that you see. And I just think it's weird because look at Wyatt Teller for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, we got him for a 6th round pick to Buffalo, who drafted him in the 5th round, and he wasn't making a name for himself at all. We get Bill Callahan, one of the better offensive line coaches, and he makes him play like a top 5 guard in the league. And we just signed him to a long-term contract extension. So it's very possible that they could just draft a tackle and develop him and make him, the next big thing. But it's very hard to find a proven left tackle that is already, made a name for himself in the league. So I don't know. With the way that the Chiefs GM has been drafting and how good he's been lately, I don't see it as kind of a stupid thing to move on from Orlando Brown and draft somebody new. But if you want a surefire thing on your offensive line protecting Holmes, I would definitely bring back Orlando Brown.
And especially because we know the left tackle position is the most important position on the offensive line of anything. And when you look at it, I mean, you brought up a good point of what the GM has been doing with the Chiefs. They've been doing a great job of surrounding Mahomes with weapons in the draft. And for some of the players they've gotten on defense from drafting,
Nick Bolton was a 3rd rounder.
Their coaches have done so well defensively at coaching these guys, and a lot of them are still insanely young. And they just went on a Super Bowl run. If you want to continue to be on this Super Bowl run and you want to keep that offensive unit intact, it is so important that they keep that intact and just say, man, we need to keep Orlando Brown around, keep him to protect Patrick Mahomes for the next 5 years, win more Super Bowls, because that's what it's going to take. And I know it's kind of how it is. These guys are wanting more and more money. It's just how it is nowadays. But a guy that is about to be 27, still in his prime, in a position where he is top 3 at what he does, you just got to pay the guy what he wants. Keep him around. You need that. And especially because one guy goes, especially the elite ones, then the rest of the dominoes start falling. Other pieces go. they don't want to play as hard. And then Patrick Mahomes now has to learn how to play quarterback with a new left tackle covering his back. And I think that's the worst part is you don't want Patrick Mahomes to have to deal with that. Protect him the way you have been, secure that spot for the next 4 seasons, and ensure you will continue to have a Super Bowl run with Orlando Brown at left tackle. Me personally, that's what I think they should do. Derek Carr to the Saints, though. I mean, that was a wild one. We were just sitting talking about it the other day. Should we go for Taylor Lewan? By we, I mean Colts. No. Ryman's good enough. Lewan's going to cost more money, and Lewan's not going to go somewhere where he's going to be a depth piece. It's just not how it's going to work.
Are you kidding me? He was one of the better left tackles when he was in the league playing.
And Bernard Ryman last season from week 9 to week 18 was a top 4 left tackle in all of the league.
Yeah, and Taylor Lewan was a top 4 left tackle in the league when he was playing as well.
Okay, so why
you act
why
like he's
have
gonna be
both
a
of them
depth
on? Yeah, because Ryman, who is younger, not costing you anything, and is improving every day by the instant, you want to keep that in there. You don't want to
just a starter. He's not a bench piece.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. The Colts can't promise him a starting spot. And then the problem is Taylor Lewan is 32 years old. He's getting older. And I don't want to have an aging left tackle come onto my offensive line that in a position that we don't need. We don't need left tackle. We need right guard. We need center. We don't need left tackle.
Bernard Ryman was really good. I thought you didn't need center.
I understand, but Ryan Kelly may end up getting cut. That might end up being something that happens. So I'm just looking at it from the perspective of Bernard Ryman is younger. He doesn't cost anything. He's getting better. He was really good at the end of the year, and he needs to continue to be in to improve. And that's what he needs. That's what we need. Instead of spending what? Like, how much would you think that Taylor Lewan would end up costing a team? I have no idea. $8
million a year.
$8 million, $9 million. Yeah, I mean, the problem is the Colts are already like until we cut some guys, we're kind of starving for cap space right now. So it's kind of in a situation where I don't want to spend probably about 15-20% of our cap on a left tackle that we don't need.
You'll save money by letting Paris Campbell go. So
I know you want him on the Browns, but and also he's a free agent, homie. So we don't. It doesn't cost anything for our cap.
Well, there you go. No, I'm saying you'll save money if you don't re-sign him.
Well, I understand that, but you were probably going to get him for cheap anyway, so I don't care. Anyways, let's go back to Derek Carr, shall we? So this is funny because we were talking about him in the podcast the other day. You know, Carolina, the Jets, other places. We're talking about these teams that he may go to. We never discussed.
I did say don't sleep on the Saints.
Don't sleep on the Saints. But it's like we never really thought of them as a front runner, even though the Raiders and the Saints had the trade almost done deal before Derek Carr shut it down. And sure enough, he's now officially going to the Saints. That 4-year, $150 million contract with $100 million guaranteed. What do you think about that deal for the Saints?
Well, here's the thing. Like the reason why Derek Carr kind of declined the trade to the Saints is because he didn't want to be tied down. He wanted to be able to choose where he wanted to go and be free with what he was doing. So, you know, being able to let him choose what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go was a much bigger deal for him than what just being traded away was. Yeah, the Raiders lost assets and pieces that they desperately needed, but in the long run, you look at it of like, okay, Derek Carr made his choice. He's got what he wanted to do, and you know, he went to a weaker conference, a weaker division, a division that only has one established quarterback at this point in time, and we don't even know if he's going to be the starter at the beginning of the year, and that's Desmond Ridder. So we'll have to wait and see how the Falcons go about this too, because, you know, going into a conversation that we started last week with Lamar Jackson, he's going to be franchise tag. But the thing is, if he gets a non-exclusive franchise tag, all is open for him. You know, it's all a matter of who's got what to offer for Lamar Jackson, and he can choose not to sign it and go play for somebody else. Now, if they do an exclusive franchise tag, it's got to be a first round or more to be able to get Lamar Jackson if he chooses not to sign. So it really just depends on what tag they give him and how it's going to go about it. But for the meantime, I think the Jets, I think the Panthers, I think the Falcons, and a whole bunch of other people are just waiting on this whole Lamar Jackson situation to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'll have to see how that goes. And like you said, the tag deadline's tomorrow. So, if they don't trade him by, if they don't trade him by then he's going to become a free agent. They're not going to get anything for him. So it's going to be.
They can still tag him. Like I said, if you do an exclusive tag, franchise tag, then they're going to have to give, if somebody wants him, they're going to have to give up trade assets unless he does not sign. He's got until, I think, June 1st to sign his tag. And if he doesn't, then he becomes a restricted free agent for anybody to
chat him up,
to get him up.
Yep. And we'll see if he ends up signing it or not. I would imagine not, because he feels insanely disrespected as is.
And he knows that if he can go to the free agent market, somebody's going to pay top dollar for him, aka Jets or Panthers.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, somebody will, and probably will end up being the Jets. We'll probably end up being the Jets. So we'll have to see on that. But the Derek Carr one, very interesting. It's kind of ironic because now the Saints have by far and away the best quarterback situation in the entire division right now. So that immediately skyrockets them to the top of the division right there and then. Just the only thing is now, like, what do the other teams do, right? Because Tampa needs to figure theirs out. Who knows if Atlanta is going to actually go with Ritter. And Carolina has been reportedly one of the most aggressive teams in trying to trade up to the top of the draft in order to get a quarterback. So we'll need to figure out who's going to do what. But
I've
it's
also been
hearing
that they're in on the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes. If he, decides to go to Carolina, that could be a good move for them, a good bridge quarterback to sit there for 1, maybe 2 years to help develop the guy and learn with the person that they get. But the one thing I will sit here and say is the Saints, it was reported today on the NFL Network that the Saints are keeping Michael Thomas. That's a $59 million cap hit if they keep him.
Because what they did was they were supposed to pay him $15 million this upcoming year, but they reduced his contract to like $2 million, but then made him a roster bonus of 31.5. So even if they got rid of him, even if they cut him, they don't have to pay him the full 31 million for the roster bonus. They have until a certain date. I don't remember what date it is, but it would cap hit probably cost them around 30 mil to cut him. And it's like they may have to do it because they're not getting production out of him. He already hates the organization. We know the kind of stuff that he's been talking about with, saying that these team doctors, they only tell you in the best interest of the team, not of you. And that's why they're telling them this and I'm telling them that and all this. So, the Saints have to cut their $30 million loss and just take it because keep him around is just creating more of a cap issue.
And at this point in time, like if you do manage to somehow keep him, look at Landry, Olave, Wilson, and Thomas. Ooh, not to mention that up and coming young defense who played really well last year. Their offense just wasn't rolling and wasn't clicking. And you paired Derek Carr with that offense, dude, it'll be a dominant force. And to answer your question about the Cleveland Browns, that's probably better for me to answer. I think that with everything that I've been hearing, all the moves that they were trying to make, Andrew Berry was voted amongst his peers and amongst like everybody else at the scouting combine, the most aggressive GM when it comes to trading and free agency. So at this point in time, there's a lot of reports saying that he is doing a lot of restructures with Myles Garrett, with Nick Chubb and with Deshaun Watson, because all three of them said that they are willing to take less money now and get their money later on in the future to be able to bring on better and veteran players for this team. And if they can restructure all three of them, they can free up at least $50 to $55 million to spend in free agency. And from the looks on what they're talking about is they're talking about going out and maybe getting Javon Hargraves. They're going to throw some money at Jesse Bates to get him in the backfield along with Grant Delpit. And pairing him along with Grant Delpit would give Delpit an actual chance to, shine and see what he's got. And having those guys on there with Jim Schwartz, I'm telling you, this team could be dominant in the future with their defense and everything. And then, another full season with Watson under their belt. Everybody in that building and everybody on offense said that they love Stefanski and his play calling. Watson's raved about his play calling, said that how he is taking a lot off his plate and not making him do as much as what he did over in Houston and everything like that. So I think they will be competitive. I think that they will have a 10-win season this year. If it's more, then that's fantastic. But I'm projecting at least 10 wins this year and finishing second in the division right behind the Bengals, especially if the Ravens get rid of Lamar.
Gotcha. Well, let's mention a few other things that have gone on today. One other player that's on the trade block, and that is Derrick Henry. Again, when we said that the Titans were cleaning house, they're reportedly really cleaning house. I think that they're finally realizing that, hanging on to Derrick Henry is just not going to keep winning them games, and they have to start doing better in other positions going forward. What teams do you see Derrick Henry going to? And what kind of compensation do you see them actually potentially getting for him?
Like I said, CMC is a lot younger, and if he did not even get a first-round pick for him, then I don't see a first-round pick going for Derrick Henry. Now, granted, people may look at it like, oh, he had a 2,000-yard season a few years ago. He's been one of the most dominant backs. He hasn't really fallen off, and you don't really see him skipping a beat, blah, blah, blah. He is 32. He's reaching the latter half of his career in terms of his production and everything. And, who knows how much longer he's got left and how much longer he can perform at the level
he's not 32. At. He's 29.
What? Why were they saying he was 32 then?
He was born in 94, so he's 29 years old.
Even still,
it's still right there. It's close to that magic number of 30, which everyone always says that magic number of 30 is the time when you start questioning.
Even still, who knows how much longer Derrick Henry actually has to play at a high level. So it's going to be interesting. The teams I do see are running back needy teams. For example, like I said, Howie Roseman's going to be very aggressive to try to go after Derrick Henry. He was not even shy at trying to get A.J. Brown, and you saw how that worked out. Imagine him going out to get Derrick Henry and pairing him with that Eagles team.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of teams that you would want to get, especially if you were a title contender.
Imagine the Dolphins going to get him.
Dolphins, the Bills, right? The Bills having Derrick Henry would just be insane. I just question a few things. Well, for one thing, I definitely think that a team can definitely get Derrick Henry, and I think the Titans could get at least 2 or 3 mid second or third round picks out of him because you said it. Christian McCaffrey didn't get a first, but he was worth a second, a third, a fourth, and a sixth. So, 4 different picks. And the 49ers said, we felt that was equivalent to a first-round pick. Because, it wasn't actually a first-round pick, but we gave him 4 draft picks. There are a lot of things you can do with 4 draft picks. And Derrick Henry, like you said, has been a top 3 running back in the NFL for literally the last 3-4 years. So it doesn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if he got a haul very similar to a Christian McCaffrey in that sense.
Also, another guy I could see is another team that actually has the cap space and will be getting a lot of picks. That is the Chicago Bears.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, because then because I think about that also, and I think and especially for Chicago too, because I was thinking Derrick Henry does not fit for every scheme. Christian McCaffrey fits for most schemes because in today's NFL, he's a guy that you can send out of the backfield to make stuff like that happen. He can run in between the tackles and play on the outside insanely well. So, he does those things really well. Derrick Henry is not as much the guy that you can run on the outside, but he is a guy that when, in between the hashes, I mean, that guy is just a freaking brawler, right? Like, I mean, that could be huge for the Bears, like you said. I mean, to have David Montgomery and to have Derrick Henry in that offense to kind of bring defenses in for the Bears to allow Justin to throw the football down the field a little more might be something that they need.
Because right now the Bears have 2 first-round picks, and they have 2 second-round picks and everything. What's to say that you don't send one of those second rounders or even both of them to the Titans, send a 4th rounder this year, and then a 2nd rounder next year to the Titans for Derrick Henry? Because you're about to get 2 first rounders or more for this year for the number 1 overall pick. Not to mention you might also pick up a 2nd rounder this year, might also pick up a 2nd rounder next year. So you're going to get a haul of picks. Why not use some of those picks to go after Derrick Henry? Because like you said, imagine getting Derrick Henry, having the money to free up and have the Bears go out and get Orlando Brown, have the Bears go out and get like Jason Kelce, even though he's reaching the latter half of his career, like still a solid center.
You can get
nothing.
And that's the thing with the Bears, right? They got a ton of cap. They don't have to worry about cap. They have everything they could ask for. Their biggest attribute is the picks. Now, of course, like you said, you might have to spend some of those picks early to get some of the players that you want. But if you trade that first rounder, maybe not even once, but twice, if you may end up getting another offer with you, then, I mean, you're just going to accumulate that all back and you're going to get more on interest. And of course, when you talk about it, the Bears are not just a 1-year try to fix everything. This is about to be a 2-3 year process where they have to build this team from scratch. And the only thing is, and the only reason why I don't think they would actually do that is because, again, like you said, with Derrick Henry's age, it's about to be 30. Even though he'd be great now, is he going to be around in 3 years and still be a really good running back? Don't know. Have no idea. And that's a risk.
That is a massive risk. But the way that the Bears are running their offense and how hang on, since they look to be restructuring to grab another huge piece.
See the Bills or the Rams potentially. The Rams, maybe. I don't know. They're kind of restructuring things. I would say the most likely is the Bills because
they're $15 million over the cap, but they're easily going to restructure Allen's contract, restructure Von Miller's contract. They're going to be able to release a couple players to free up some money. They'll have the money to sign Derrick Henry. And if it means putting them over the top offensively and taking some pressure off of Allen so he doesn't have to throw as much, they will gladly do it to bring Derrick Henry in. I mean, 100%. Like, bringing a talent like Derrick Henry in is insane for any offense. But back to what I was saying with the Bears, Derrick Henry is reaching the latter half of his career. If you were to pair him up with Justin Fields, since that is a run-heavy offense at this moment in time, you've got all the cap in the world to go spend on offensive line and free agency. Let's say you get another few picks from that number 1 overall pick. What's to say you can't trade up and get a star-studded wide receiver, or you can't go, draft a dominant playmaker in the draft? That way, everybody's focused on, Derrick Henry, and you've got a great offensive line protecting you now. You just got a deep threat in the draft and everything, or even traded up to get a guy like maybe Jackson Smith or somebody. Like, dude, can you just imagine Jackson Smith, upgraded offensive line, and Derrick Henry on that Bears team? Like, yeah. They would potentially be in second place in that division, right behind the Detroit Lions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely would improve their offense drastically. Couple other players that got released Eric Kendricks of the Vikings. He is a guy that, has been with the Vikings for literally a decade, and he's gone now. Bud Dupree is being released. That saves up about $17 million in cap for the Titans. Again, just another, they're trying to gain cap. They're trying to release people. Unofficially tanking is what I'm thinking. Another thing in the AFC South, Calvin Ridley officially fully reinstated back into the NFL. He is back, no longer serving his suspension. He is now with the Jaguars. You and I talked about how big that is for the Jacksonville Jaguars going forward. I mean, it's great to see him back. I truly don't think he should have been suspended for a full year anyway. But hey, we have to talk about the rest of the NFL Combine, bro. We never actually got a chance to talk about the quarterbacks and a bunch of other things that went down that Saturday and Sunday and a few other things. Tell me, what was your reaction to watching those quarterbacks?
I think that CJ Stroud showed from the Combine why he is quarterback number one. I mean, if you're going to sit here and say Bryce Young's quarterback number one, that's fine and everything, and you can go off of his film and off of his tape and whatnot, but the Georgia game should have showed you it for CJ Stroud, the throws that he made in the NFL Combine and everything, and not to mention that this dude was accurate. He had 2, maybe 3 throws
that were somewhat, I mean, he only had one missed throw, that maybe 1 or 2 that were kind of iffy, but they were caught still, though. They were iffy throws, but everything else on the money everywhere. Every time is right where he needed.
Every single place that you needed to be. And me and you have talked about this ad nauseum when it comes to the quarterback position. If you are going to sit here and you are going to think that a guy is worth trading up like that, give up the damn picks. Okay. We talked right before the show started. You don't want to give up 3 first-rounders. I say I would. If it were me, coming from a fan who has seen his team in turmoil year after year after year, getting the quarterback position wrong year after year after year, and us having the chance to get the number 1 overall pick, having a chance to get a guy like Lamar Jackson, like a Josh Allen, a guy that I wanted, a guy that I was sitting there, I like the way that Josh Allen is playing, but everybody was Sam Darnold this, Josh Rosen that. And here I am. I'm like, no, I don't like these guys. I don't like the way that they were. And people were like, oh, well, Baker Mayfield, could be a good pick at number 1 overall. He was like a number 1 overall pick, but he wasn't that good compared to the others. And here I am, and here you are. Now, Derek, you say you don't want to give up 3 first-round picks, but what's to sit here and say that, like I said before, the Texans go and draft C.J. Stroud. The Carolina Panthers go trade up to number 1 for Bryce Young, or number 3 for that matter with Arizona. And let's say Houston goes and gets C.J. Stroud at number 1 or something. Well, then what's to say somebody else, like, I don't know, the Titans go trade up and get Anthony Richardson. Well, now you guys are sitting here with Will Levis. It could be the Baker Mayfield of this draft, where he's good, but he's not that good enough. Then you're sitting over here looking in the division where Houston's got the quarterback that you originally wanted, and 3 to 4 years from now, he is taking them to the playoffs in the AFC Championship or winning a divisional round game, whatever it may be, winning the division. He is playing like a top 5 quarterback in the league. Now, yes, 3 first-rounders is a huge risk to pay to get a quarterback, but if he pans out and he turns out to be that next up-and-coming guy, giving up 3 first-round picks is totally worth it. And you may not think that, a guy in this draft is even remotely worth it, but I think with the way that Stroud has shown everything, I think that he is worth it. I think that a guy that is accurate as hell, can pinpoint any location on the field, pairing him with an offensive-minded head coach like Shane Steichen, putting some more offensive pieces around him, pairing him with the top, like, when he's healthy, a top 5 running back in the league in Jonathan Taylor, and an up-and-coming O-line. C.J. Stroud will be a top 10, top 7 quarterback in the next 2 to 3 years if he goes to the Indianapolis Colts. And who's to say that even Caleb Williams or Drake May will be as good as what they are in the next upcoming years?
Mhm.
I mean, everybody thought the same thing with who got drafted number 1 a few years ago.
I mean, Kyler Murray got
like everybody thought Kyler Murray was the next up and coming best thing, even with his height the way it is. But look how he's playing now. Granted, Caleb Williams is nowhere near that, but I'm just saying, like, just because you have the talent and just because you are like that doesn't mean that you are going to pan out in the NFL.
Mhm.
Now, I'm very well could be wrong about Drake May and Caleb Williams and whoever else is going to be, Jaden Daniels, but don't sleep on the guys that are in this draft. I think that if you're going to go after somebody, Stroud's your number 1 option. Anthony Richardson's your number 2 if you've got somebody to go behind him, or like for him to learn behind and develop. And then Bryce Young should be your number 3. If those 3 guys are gone before you pick and you choose Will Levis, you will regret that.
It just all depends on, who the Indianapolis Colts deem to be the best fit for Shane Steichen and the offense going forward. I mean, and right, the funny thing is everyone always says it's too much unless the guy pans out, right? We've been saying it about the Rams trading away their first round picks for literally the last 6 years. They've been doing it, but what? They won a Super Bowl, right? Like, Rams fans probably hated this last year, but was it worth going and winning a Super Bowl? Absolutely it was, because you're on top of the world. Very rarely does a team get a chance to do that.
Look at what the Chiefs gave up when they traded up in the 2017 NFL draft to get Patrick Mahomes. They gave up a first-round pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they gave up, I think 6 other picks and multiple second-rounders. I think even another first-round pick, who knows? But they gave up multiple picks to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to trade up into that draft to get Patrick Mahomes. Now, not even one person remotely said that was worth giving up those picks.
Mm-hmm.
Not one single person said, wow, the Chiefs just screwed themselves and they are setting themselves back for the next decade. And then look at what happens. Patrick Mahomes pans out to be the best quarterback in the NFL for years to come.
And the crazy part is what you mentioned that, and then I saw somebody on Twitter mention this, and I thought about it too. I think the biggest argument, especially for Colts fans, they're saying there isn't that big of a difference between Bryce Young and Will Levis to say, oh yeah, that's worth trading your immediate future for. That it's just not. And that's their argument. That's their argument against it. But I would just say this. Media always does this. They say, oh, well, there isn't that much of a difference. I mean, some people thought that with Trubisky, Deshaun Watson, and Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, people thought Watson was the best one, but there were a ton of people who said Trubisky's the best one. There were a few select people who said Patrick Mahomes can become the best one.
And you remember, I was sitting there saying,
you were one of those people. You were one of those people. But it's just again, we have these analysts all the time who say, and even fans who sit there and say there isn't that much of a gap. But you say that until they actually get into the NFL. And then a few years down the line, it does drastically change. Patrick Mahomes was elite from the get-go. He was the best one out of that by a long shot. Trubisky should have never been drafted. And Deshaun Watson, before he had his scandal, was a top 5 quarterback in the league. And maybe at some point could potentially get back to that. But it's again, these analysts get this stuff wrong all the time. And fans get it wrong all the time because there's a misconception that it has to be this certain way or not. But when it comes to your quarterback, you're right. If you need to go and get the guy that you deem is the best option going forward, it should never be too much. It should never be too much, especially when you're talking about a quarterback, the most important position in football, the one that is supposed to take your franchise to the ultimate promised land. That's the most important one, and you have to get it right. You can't just sit back and play devil's advocate and say, stay at 4, or whatever team you talk about, stay back and kaput and just take whichever quarterback gets to you. You may think there's not much of a gap, but for most of these teams, that's completely false. Bryce Young can thrive in a team that knows how to use his skill set. CJ Stroud, if he gets a good offensive line, could probably be a top 10 quarterback next year if you give him the right offense. Anthony Richardson, 3-4 years down the line, he gets the stuff that he needs to fix. Anthony Richardson might be a top 5 quarterback in the entire NFL. He's got all the intangibles to do so. It's just a matter of what does that team provide for a player. It's just one of those situations where I'm all for us trading up to go to number 1 to get him. Do I think it's worth 3 first rounds? I don't know. I would be willing to give up 2023 and 2024, another pick, maybe a player that we could throw. I've heard the Colts may potentially franchise tag Bobby Okereke and throw that in as for a trade package with the Chicago Bears. That could be possible. That's a player that they want.
That's honestly not a bad idea because it could be a defensive talent, especially linebacker, since they gave up one that they're looking for. You can get him on a cheaper deal than what you would have gotten with Roquan Smith and everything. But, Derek, I respect the way that you and me look at the football world compared to anybody else that, likes to make arguments.
Yeah.
Because we are more realistic. And with you as a Colts fan, I think that sometimes you let people on Twitter or people online persuade you different ways and everything.
Hey, listen, I'm open to a lot of different ideas. But if I think it's realistic, then I'll go with it.
But the thing is, like, what I will say is, if there is a guy that you are looking at right now, that your organization is looking at right now, nothing is too much, except for if you're asking for 7-8 picks and a player, that's a little too much. But if you're asking for 3 first rounders, that's not too much. Because what's to say that next year comes around, you guys don't get a quarterback this round, or if you do, you get somebody that's not as good as what you think, and you settle. Well, then next year it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg to trade up to try to get the next best thing, and you've already got guys, especially a quarterback needy team that could potentially need a franchise quarterback next year, that is looking to get Caleb Williams, that is looking to get Drake May, that may be looking to get Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix.
There's no definitive cut that you would actually, no matter how much you're willing to give up for a team. And you know what? And I can sit here and completely be honest, and we know this for a fact, that next year, if you were to try to trade up for Caleb Williams or for Drake May, for one, trade up for Caleb Williams is not happening. Whoever has the number 1 pick and whoever needs a quarterback is 100% gonna end up keeping it. And then Drake May, he may end up being the package that costs 3 first rounds, because that's what people are regarding him as. Like, he's a close second to Caleb Williams. People have that high regard for Drake May. And it's just, that's the problem, is there's a ton of people that say you need to just stick back, suck for 1 more year, and just go get Caleb Williams. Like, you act like as if that's easy. Like, that's not easy. You have to be at the very, very bottom of the barrel in order to be able to even have a chance at getting Caleb Williams. And that's a big if. There's a lot of if factors. Does Caleb Williams get hurt? Does Drake May actually get worse this next year? He looked great as a freshman.
Look at Tyler Van Dyke. Everybody regarded him as like the 4th or 5th best quarterback going into last year. And then this dude ended up sucking.
Happened? Yeah, he just sucked.
He just sucked.
He went from, like you said, on big boards, he was actually the 4th best quarterback going into this last year. And now he might not even get drafted. That's how bad he went. He went from being the top 4 quarterback in the league to saying, he is so bad, we might not even draft him anymore.
That could be Drake May.
Yeah. Or even then, if Drake May is, even if he drops down a little bit, and then you just sit back and man, we could have just went and got Stroud instead of, banking on the idea of Drake May. That's what we're talking about. You can't play we'll just wait till next year, because next year the grass always looks greener on the other side until you get to that green grass, and then the next year it's the same thing. That one's even better. That one's even better. That one's even better. People just are so stupid and thinking that the next year it's always just going to get better. Go and get the guys that are in front of you that are going to be good players, and get it no matter what it freaking costs. The Colts have waited too damn long for a quarterback. They've been grieving over the Andrew Luck thing for the last 4 years. Suck it up, move on, go and get the guy. It's time to move on. It's time to make a change.
And Jim Irsay already told Ballard at the beginning of the season, make it happen. Do what you got to do. This is your last chance. Why not go for broke? Because if you go for broke and you hit, then oh my gosh,
I think Ballard would rather take the chance on, if I'm going to lose my job in 2 to 3 years from now, at once we find out if Stroud or whoever they get is good or not, at least you'd rather go out swinging. Go get the one that you actually want. And you know what? And the weird thing is like, we as fans, I think a majority of people think that Levis is quarterback 4 now. Listen, there might be a team that deems Will Levis quarterback 1 or 2. I mean, we've heard that conversation. And you know what? If at the end of the day, if you think Will Levis is going to end up being quarterback 1 and you absolutely need him, and you know that somebody's going to take him if you don't trade up in front of him, go do it. At the end of the day, if you think that is the best course of action, forget what the fans say. Go and make the best decision for you. And then you know what? In 2 to 3 years from now, if Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, any of these guys goes out and balls out, then nobody's going to care. Everyone's going to do a total 180. They'll be like, oh, wow, Ballard, you did it. You did it. Great. Nice job, dude. You were right. We were wrong. We'll shut up now. You actually did it right. Like, then everyone will just shut up about it. So at the end of the day, and I know Ballard does not lose sleep over what I think, what you think, what Colts Nation thinks. He doesn't lose sleep overnight about it. But at the end of the day, I know he knows that the heat is on, and he needs to make that move, because there are a bunch of other teams behind him that are looking to do the same thing, and that needs to be done.
And I'm going to go based off of my team, just because everybody still thinks that we made a big mistake. And like we said earlier today, when we were coming back from lifting, people are so quick to judge off of one bad year that they're willing to write off the other half of their career that they had. Oh, they're washed up. They haven't played in so long. They've done this. They've done that. They're never going to be the same. Giving up 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson was not a stupid thing at all. Because if you look at how he has been his career and what he has put up, he was a top 5 quarterback when playing and healthy. And you put the right offense in with him and give him some weapons and give him a chance to knock off the rust, he will be back to tip-top form and could be playing like a top 5 QB next year.
I definitely think he will be a fringe top 10 quarterback next year for sure, because he's, like you said, last season was more like knocking the rust off. Hasn't played for 2 years, and he's trying to get back into the swing of things. I think this year, obviously, he's around the building all year. He's practicing all year. He's around these guys practicing more and getting more.
They've changed up their defense. They've changed up their special teams.
Yeah,
they're adding more offensive pieces.
Yeah,
they are, Kevin Stefanski switching up the offense for him and everything.
Yeah,
and not to mention that having a full season under your belt with the same offensive line, the same head coach, the same playmakers, everything like that is going to be so much better. And Texans fans, thank you for the 3 first-round picks. You can have the 3 first-round picks, but if you don't hit on any of them, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right now, they spent their first rounder that we gave them on a freaking offensive lineman that isn't doing anything at all for them. I mean, and I made a TikTok on this the other day about this one Ravens fan that was complaining with the Lamar Jackson situation about how he's just like, oh yeah, screw you Browns fans, because now since the Browns are the dumbest organization in the league, paying a serial molester, $230 million fully guaranteed, now the Ravens have to sit back and watch Lamar potentially leave because he wants a fully guaranteed contract because of Deshaun Watson. Well, as a Browns fan for years, for freaking 20 years, we have gone without a quarterback. 20 years we've gone without a championship. 20 years we've been trying to figure out a guy that could be solidified.
Hey, guys, Tom Pelissero just tweeted this. The Seahawks and Pro Bowl quarterback Geno Smith are finalizing a new multi-year contract. So Smith would have become a free agent, but it said he's staying in Seattle. So that's an interesting one, man. You and I were debating that. Was Seattle going to go with a quarterback, or were they going to stay with Geno Smith? And it sounds like they're rolling with Geno for a little
Pete Carroll
while.
also said, "Don't be shocked if they go up and get a quarterback because they are really high on AR-15." And imagine pairing AR-15 with the Seahawks. Huh?
There we go. 3-year contract extension for $105 million with the ability to earn $52 million in the first calendar year. So they would pay potentially half his salary on the first year. That might actually be a very smart move because, again, what Seattle's trying to do is paying half of it up front. They know they're committed to him for that first year, but then it makes it a lot less hard for them to move on. That next year will be less of a cap hit if Geno doesn't get better and their chances of going to the championship don't increase.
Well, like I said, though, like Pete Carroll's really high on AR-15. And if they think that Anthony Richardson is a unfinished product, like we both agree and both say that he is, he's got 3 years to learn under Geno Smith. And after the first year, if you deem that he's better, you can cut Geno and eat the cap like you want. And if not, then have Geno go for 2 years and have him go for 1 year and everything. So it's a very interesting situation to see what they're going to do and, see if they're going to choose a quarterback. But Pete Carroll did come out and say, don't be shocked if we go quarterback the first round. Dang, this is interesting.
That's awesome, dude. I love that. That's great. It's awesome for Geno, man. Geno, a guy that came in right away, was doubted by so many people, finally gets into a situation with Pete Carroll and, finally gets his opportunity to shine, man. I mean, what was it? I don't remember who it was, but I think like Geno was ranked preseason, was ranked the worst quarterback option for any team in the NFL.
Yeah,
and sure enough, Geno did good enough to take them to a freaking playoff run, man. That's insane. That's awesome. That's great for Seattle. But yeah, that's exactly right, bro. They're gearing up now for Richardson. So if Carolina wants in, that makes it even worse. It makes it even worse. So now the Colts have to move up now because now you're afraid that if Seattle wants to do something, because Seattle has 2 first-rounders, don't they?
They do. So they got the 5th pick and they've got the 20th pick.
So they know they have a quarterback locked up for at least a year or two. And then, like you said, Anthony Richardson comes along, then, you work it out. And so now Carolina knows they have to trade up.
Because now you've got a stable situation to where if they do go after Richardson, you've got Geno Smith being able to start for 3 years. Anthony Richardson can easily just come in and coast and sit right behind Geno and learn, make it a Patrick Mahomes situation. If you don't think he's ready after that first year, you can play Geno again the next year, let Richardson ride the bench for 1 more year, and then start him the second or third year after he does that. Keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers did that for 3 seasons right behind Brett Favre. So he waited 3 seasons before he started. Why not do that with AR-15? Let him get polished, let him get comfortable, and let him learn the team and everything. Dude, this is going to be hell for the Colts. They have to go to number 1.
Or at least move up to number 3 to at least ensure you have a choice in the matter. Because Seattle, Seattle with that pick number 5 and then, another one that they could throw to one of the teams in a way, it's a possibility. That's wild. But hey, congratulations to Geno Smith on that. But I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. That was a really beefy stream. A lot of good content there. I have a strong feeling that over the next week and a half, there's going to be a lot of news and a lot of more topics to talk about.
Dude, next week we are going to talk about all of the free agent moves that are going to happen for this next week. So keep tuned. Keep watching the show. We are going to update you guys on everything that you may miss and, things that are going to happen live. And keep in mind that just because people sign contracts in the free agency tampering period doesn't mean that they're finalized until that Wednesday. because we have seen it time and time again where people sign contracts, back out at the last second, and then sign with somebody else. CJ Mosley did that a couple years ago. He signed with somebody, backed out at the last second, then signed with the New York Jets. So it'll be very interesting to see where they're going to go with this. But yeah, so that'll do it for us on the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This is Chase and Derek signing off. Have a good day.